My brother got married last weekend. The photos hit my screen before he ever said a word. I sat under the flickering fluorescent lights of the store break room, staring at a viral video. Courtney stood adjusting a diamond veil, filming her makeup routine inside the master bathroom of the townhome I bought with my own blood and sweat. She smiled right into the lens. She casually told thousands of followers they intentionally excluded her middle-aged shop girl sister-in-law. Apparently, my low-class retail vibes would ruin their luxury aesthetic. The frame shifted. Spencer stepped in. He leaned down and kissed her cheek, cementing his complete complicity. The styrofoam coffee cup in my hand crumpled under my grip. Hot liquid spilled across the cheap plastic table. I dropped the ruined cup in the trash, slid my phone into my pocket, and stood up. The drive to the townhome took 20 minutes. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles turned white. 15 years of my life flashed across the windshield. I remembered standing in a hospital hallway at 21, promising our dying mother I would make sure Spencer never went without. I worked double shifts, stocking shelves, skipped every vacation, and clawed my way up to store manager. I built a $50,000 future fund for him. I put the down payment on that $450,000 Charlotte townhome so he would have a safe place to start his life. My youth paid for his privilege. Now, he was using that privilege to erase me. I pulled into the driveway and marched straight to the front door. I pounded on the heavy wood. The door swung open. Courtney stood there in a silk robe, clutching her phone. Spencer hovered right behind her, his eyes glued to the floorboards. He looked exactly like the terrified kid from the hospital. Except now, his cowardice was a choice. Courtney rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. She told me they did not need a middle-aged shop girl killing their vibe. She said they were self-made now, and my controlling peasant behavior was embarrassing. I looked at my brother. I waited for him to speak. I waited for him to defend the woman who raised him. Spencer finally lifted his head, nodded along with his wife, and told me I was suffocating them. The air in the room felt so thin I could barely breathe. They felt entitled to my money, but ashamed of my grind. I stared at the two of them standing inside the house I owned. I turned around, walked down the driveway, and got back into my car. Narcissists feed on your tears, but they absolutely starve in your silence. Sitting in the driver's seat, I pulled out my laptop. I logged into my investment portal. I initiated the full liquidation of the $50,000 fund. The cash would take 3 days to clear into my private bank account. But the action triggered an immediate digital lockdown. I changed the master password, permanently revoking Spencer's viewing access. Next, I logged into their shared emergency checking account, which was legally under my name, and transferred the available balance to zero. Then I picked up my phone and called Morgan. Morgan is a shark of a real estate agent who deals strictly in off-market properties. I told her the townhome was officially for sale. I wanted a cash buyer. No staging. No inspection. Close as fast as legally possible. Morgan shopped it to a ruthless corporate investor network within the hour. By the time Spencer and Courtney were sitting in an Uber heading to the airport for their premium honeymoon, Morgan and I were signing a legally binding purchase agreement with a massive non-refundable deposit. That contract transferred equitable title, giving Morgan the ultimate legal firepower to strike. Spencer and Courtney arrived at the airport terminal expecting luxury. Instead, they found invalid flight tickets and entirely empty bank accounts. While they were standing at the ticketing counter in a panic, Morgan served a formal 30-day eviction notice directly to their digital inboxes. Courtney refused to accept defeat. Her entitlement blinded her to reality. She decided to strike back and destroy the very livelihood that paid for her lifestyle. She weaponized her massive influencer platform, posting a hysterical video begging her followers to review bomb my retail store. Thousands of fake one-star reviews flooded our corporate page within hours. She did not stop there. Courtney called my corporate human resources department, posing as a concerned citizen. She filed a formal complaint falsely accusing me of embezzling thousands of dollars in merchandise and cash from the store office to fund my secret real estate empire. She gave them a specific date, a Tuesday 3 weeks prior, claiming she personally witnessed me stuffing cash into my bag. My regional manager pulled me into the back office the next morning. My job, my reputation, and my 15-year career were suddenly hanging by a thread. I sat across the metal desk from the corporate loss prevention officer. They played the security footage from the cash room on the exact Tuesday Courtney specified. The high-definition tape showed me doing absolutely nothing wrong. I sat at the desk, counted the tills, signed the ledger, and left. I leaned forward and asked the loss prevention officer to pull up the main floor camera for that exact same timestamp. The screen flickered and switched angles. Right there. In crystal clear color was Courtney. She was pacing the fragrance aisle. She looked over her shoulder, unzipped her oversized designer bag, and slipped 3 bottles of Tom Ford perfume inside. The total retail value was $1,200. Months ago, I had discovered the missing inventory and quietly paid for it out of my own pocket to protect my brother from his new girlfriend's reckless behavior. Now, that same tape was official corporate evidence. Because the stolen amount exceeded the state felony threshold, corporate policy bypassed me entirely. Loss prevention automatically forwarded the raw footage and Courtney's contact information straight to the Charlotte Police Department. Her false human resources complaint just provided the police with her exact digital footprint and location. I walked out of the office with my job secured. I walked to my car, pulled out my phone, and anonymously forwarded the police report number to Courtney's top 3 brand sponsors. Her online empire crumbled before sunset. Sponsors dropped her immediately, issuing public statements distancing themselves from a felony larceny investigation. Her comment sections turned into a bloodbath. 3 weeks later, the cash sale of the townhome finalized. The corporate buyers changed the locks. I walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity transferred safely into my private account. Courtney went completely dark on social media, swallowed by mounting legal fees and impending criminal charges. A month passed in total silence. Then, my phone rang. It was Spencer. His voice was thin, cracked, and trembling. He told me Courtney had abandoned him the moment the money ran out and the police showed up. The legal fees had drained whatever scraps they had left. The corporate investors had legally locked them out of the house. He was standing on a sidewalk with a duffel bag, begging to come sleep on my couch. He called me his big sister. He tried to use the memory of our mother to pry the door open one last time. I listened to him cry. My chest did not tighten. My hands did not shake. I told him that true independence means paying your own rent. I hung up the phone and blocked his number forever. I live in a much smaller apartment now. The walls are painted a calm, quiet white. There are no frantic phone calls at midnight. There are no emergency bailouts. I wake up every morning, brew my coffee, and listen to the absolute silence of a life that finally belongs entirely to me. People often ask how you can just walk away from blood. They tell you family is everything, that you have to forgive, that you have to keep carrying the weight because you share a last name. But I spent 15 years analyzing the psychology of a toxic family dynamic. I learned that my brother did not exclude me from his wedding because I was embarrassing. He excluded me because every single time he looked at my face, he was reminded that he was a total fraud living on his sister's dime. When someone owes you their entire existence, their ego cannot handle the debt. They have to tear you down. They have to minimize your sacrifices to convince themselves they earn their place in the world. He needed to cast me as a controlling villain so he could play the victim. Surviving that betrayal taught me 3 absolute rules about life: money and loyalty. Rule number 1, true independence is not a gift you can buy someone. It is a weight they have to carry themselves. I thought I was protecting Spencer from the harshness of the world. In reality, I was robbing him of the friction required to grow up. When you eliminate all the consequences from someone's life, you do not create a successful adult. You create an entitled dependent who will eventually resent you for the very safety net you built. Rule number 2, narcissists will happily live in a house you built for them, while actively resenting you for holding the keys. Courtney despised me because I represented the truth she was trying to hide from her followers. She wanted the luxury aesthetic, but she hated the retail worker who funded it. Toxic people do not appreciate your generosity. They view it as a weakness they can exploit. The moment you stop giving, their fake affection turns into violent rage. Rule number 3, walking away from blood is not revenge. It is survival. We are conditioned to believe that setting boundaries with family is an act of cruelty. But when family mistakes your monumental generosity for entitled servitude, staying is self-destruction. You are allowed to take your energy back. You are allowed to mourn the family you wished you had, while aggressively protecting yourself from the family you actually got. The judge ultimately sentenced Courtney to community service and massive financial restitution, destroying her brand forever. Spencer is working a minimum wage job, learning exactly how hard it is to pay for a life. Morgan got her commission, and I got my peace. If you have ever poured your absolute soul into someone who treated your life-altering sacrifices like a basic entitlement, I want you to know you are not alone. Tell me your story in the comments below. Where do you draw the line between helping your family and funding your own disrespect? When did you finally realize that enough was enough? And if my story brought you some clarity, some peace, or just a reminder of your own worth, hit subscribe, stay strong, protect your peace, and never apologize for taking your life back. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there asking, how on earth did she wait 15 years? How do you fund a $450,000 house and build a $50,000 future fund for a brother who treats you like an ATM without snapping a decade sooner? It is incredibly easy to judge from the outside. But let us talk about the reality of why smart, highly capable people get trapped in toxic family dynamics. In psychology, there is a concept called the slot machine effect, also known as intermittent reinforcement. When you are dealing with a toxic or entitled relative, they do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would just walk away. Instead, they give you tiny crumbs of hope, a rare thank you, a nostalgic conversation, or a brief moment where they act like the family you always wanted. You keep pulling the lever, sacrificing your own youth and bank account. hoping this is the time you finally hit the jackpot of their unconditional love. Natalie was not stupid. She was addicted to the hope that her brother would eventually grow up. But when that illusion finally shattered, Natalie executed an absolute masterclass in financial self-defense. Let us break down her smart moves. First, building the case. Notice how Natalie did not give away her power by screaming on the front porch. She weaponized her silence. She let them get in the Uber. And while they were celebrating, she initiated the fund liquidation and locked down the emergency accounts before they even reached the airport. She secured her assets first and processed her emotions second. Second, the audit strategy: liars, scammers, and entitled people absolutely hate details. When Courtney tried to destroy Natalie's retail career with a fake human resources complaint, Natalie did not panic or argue. She demanded the tape. She used corporate protocol to audit the exact timestamp, smoothly flipping a fake accusation into an undeniable $1,200 felony charge. She let the data do the fighting for her. Third, the buyout. When you are dealing with financial parasites, you have to cut the host body away entirely. By selling that property to an off-market cash buyer, she did not just get her equity back. She legally transferred the title and forced a 30-day eviction, permanently liquidating their leverage. She invested in her ultimate freedom. 2 years later, I walked past the same break room where I had first seen that wedding video. The fluorescent lights still flickered. The coffee was still terrible. The plastic chairs still wobbled whenever someone sat down too fast. But I was not the same woman who had crushed a styrofoam cup in her hand while watching the brother she raised erase her from his life. Back then, I thought betrayal had to be loud to matter. I thought it had to come with screaming, door slamming, or some dramatic confession. But the worst betrayals are often casual. A laugh on camera, a careless insult, a kiss on the cheek that proves someone chose the person humiliating you. Spencer did not lose me in a fight. He lost me in one quiet second when he stood behind Courtney and agreed that the woman who built his life was an embarrassment. That was the moment I finally understood something I had avoided for 15 years. I had not been helping my brother grow. I had been renting space in his life with my own sacrifice. When the money stopped, the love stopped pretending. The first few months after cutting him off were strange. I expected grief to come like a storm, but it came like dust. It settled on everything. I would see a cereal brand he liked and remember packing his school lunches. I would drive past a basketball court and remember waiting in the cold after his practices because mom was too sick to pick him up. I would hear someone call their brother and feel a small, sharp ache in my chest. I did not miss the grown man who used me. I missed the little boy I promised to protect. That was the hardest part. Toxic family does not only steal your money, they steal your memories and make you question whether your love was ever real. But my love had been real. My effort had been real. My sacrifices had been real. Spencer's entitlement did not erase my goodness. Courtney's cruelty did not make my loyalty foolish. It only proved they were willing to stand on something sacred and call it a floor. Slowly, I rebuilt. I moved into a smaller apartment. But for the first time, every bill had my name on it for my benefit. No hidden emergency account. No future fund for someone else. No mortgage payment disguised as sibling love. I bought a secondhand couch, a sturdy wooden table, and one expensive coffee maker I had wanted for years but always told myself was unnecessary. The first morning I made coffee in that quiet kitchen, I cried. Not because I was sad, because no one needed anything from me. No one was calling to say rent was due. No one was asking for gas money. No one was sending me screenshots of luxury furniture they expected me to buy while calling my work embarrassing behind my back. The silence was so unfamiliar that it felt almost dangerous at first. Then it became beautiful. Morgan called a few months after the sale closed. She had found a small duplex listed below market value. Nothing fancy. Solid bonus. Good neighborhood. One side occupied by a retired nurse who baked banana bread every Sunday. The other side empty. She told me it was the kind of property you buy when you are done funding other people's dreams and ready to build your own. I bought it. Signing those papers felt different from the day I helped buy Spencer's townhome back then. My signature felt like a promise to someone else. This time, it felt like a declaration. My future belonged to me. The duplex became my anchor. I painted the front door deep green. I planted lavender along the walkway. I rented the empty unit to a young teacher with a rescue dog and a nervous smile. When she apologized for asking too many questions about the lease, I recognized the fear in her voice. The fear of needing help, the fear of being judged, the fear of becoming a burden. I told her calmly that asking questions was not a crime. Maybe that is what healing does. It turns your old wounds into places where you can become gentle without becoming available for abuse. Spencer tried to contact me twice after that first call. Once through an old friend, once through a handwritten letter sent to the store. He wrote that Courtney had ruined him. He wrote that he finally understood how much I had done. He wrote that Mom would be disappointed in us if she saw what happened. That line almost worked. Then I read it again. Mom would not have been disappointed that I stopped rescuing him. Mom would have been heartbroken that he used her memory like a crowbar to break open a door I had already locked. So I did not answer, not because I hated him. Hatred still keeps you tied to someone. I did not want revenge anymore. I did not want apologies rehearsed from desperation. I did not want a grown man returning, only because the woman he chose had emptied his pockets. I wanted peace, and peace requires maintenance. Sometimes peace is changing your number. Sometimes peace is refusing to explain. Sometimes peace is letting a person you love experience the consequences you kept interrupting. That part is brutal, especially when you have spent your life believing love means rescue. But rescue without accountability is just a slower form of destruction. I had saved Spencer from hunger, bills, rent, fear, and failure. But because I saved him from everything, I also saved him from becoming someone who could stand on his own. That was my mistake. His betrayal was his. My recovery was mine. Courtney's brand never came back. The internet has a short memory for most things, but sponsors have a long one when felony theft appears in the search results. She tried to rebrand twice. First as a misunderstood wife, then as a victim of classism. But people had seen the footage, they had seen the police report, they had watched her luxury aesthetic collapse into shoplifting charges and unpaid legal bills. Spencer eventually found work stocking shelves at a discount warehouse outside Charlotte. A cousin told me that as if it should break my heart. It did not. Honest work never embarrassed me. What embarrassed me was watching someone live in a house paid for by retail labor while mocking the woman who earned it. Maybe that job will teach him what 15 years of my sacrifice could not. I hope it does. But I no longer need to witness the lesson. That is the final freedom. Toxic people never expect you to claim the right to stop watching. You do not have to monitor their downfall. You do not have to attend every consequence. You do not have to keep checking whether karma has done enough. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is turn around, close the curtain, and build a life so full that their chaos becomes background noise. So if you are the one holding everything together right now, I want you to hear me clearly. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to let the account close, the ticket decline, the house sell, the phone ring unanswered. You are allowed to take your name off the emergency list. You are allowed to disappoint people who only love you when you are useful. That does not make you cruel. It makes you awake. Family should not feel like a subscription you keep paying for basic respect. Love should not require proof of purchase. Loyalty should not mean financing someone's lifestyle while they laugh at the work that made it possible. I spent 15 years raising a brother who eventually became ashamed of the woman who saved him. But I do not regret loving him. I regret abandoning myself to do it. Never again. Now, every morning, I unlock the door to my own home. I water the lavender. I drink coffee from the machine I bought without guilt. I go to work with my head high because retail never made me small. Carrying ungrateful people did. And when the world is quiet, I no longer hear loneliness. I hear my life coming back to me. The hardest lesson you will ever learn is realizing that you cannot buy loyalty. And you certainly cannot fund someone else's character development. Blood simply makes you related. But consistent respect is what actually makes you family. If someone views your monumental generosity as a weakness to exploit, it is time to close the bank, sell the house, and lock the door. Have you ever had to legally or financially cut off a toxic relative? How did you protect your assets and your sanity? Drop your survival strategies in the comments below so others can learn. And if this breakdown gave you the courage to finally draw your own line in the sand, hit subscribe for more real talk. Stay smart and protect your peace.